Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar, our version 66 features demo. We're really excited to have you. Before we dive in, we'll go over just a handful of housekeeping details. To start, all of your microphones are muted. So if you have any questions, your favorite training team, including myself and Devin, are in the chat waiting to answer those questions. So ask your questions along the way. You don't have to wait until the end. And of course, we'll have time for questions at the end. So we'll be able to review some things and go back over a couple of topics if you have any questions. A recording of this webinar will be available on our YouTube channel before the end of the week. So if you're not able to stay for the whole thing, be sure to check that out. You can check out all of our upcoming webinars by heading to our website, clubexpress.com, clicking on the Cool Stuff option on our menu, then clicking on webinars. You can see an upcoming schedule, as well as, if you scroll down just a little bit, a host of previously recorded webinars. They're also on our YouTube channel. And of course, while you're on our YouTube channel watching one of our fabulous webinars or great tutorials, hit that subscribe button. It isn't so we just get more followers. It's so that you get notified every time we upload a new video, and you can stay up to date on all of the new features and changes. And as a last note, if you are using ClubExpress, we would love to hear from you. Leaving a review on any one of those sites helps us figure out what we're doing well and what we might need to change. And it also really helps prospective customers. It helps them figure out if ClubExpress is the right solution for them. So take a moment to pop over to clubexpress.com/reviews, pick a site and leave us a review. We look forward to hearing from you. And with that being said, I will hand it off to Dan Ehrman to host today's webinar. Dan?
All right, thank you, Sam, and welcome everybody. We're really excited to have you joining us. Let me switch over to my screen, and there we go. So basically the same screen that Sam was just showing you, let's dive right in. So version 66 was announced last Wednesday, and most of the features have been deployed and the help system and manuals updated. There are a couple of features that are still in testing, and I'll point those out as we go along. You know, I should make it clear to everyone that we're continually developing features. So since we did the last announcement for version 65, we've added a whole bunch of features. Once they're developed and tested, we deploy them. We don't necessarily announce them immediately, but we deploy them. And then once enough time has passed and we've got enough stuff that we can put into an announcement, we then batch them all up together, and that becomes version 66. So some of these are features that you may have seen already. They've been in the system for a couple of months. Occasionally, we make the announcements in the newsletter that we're now sending out once a month as well. So you'll see some of those there. So we're going to look at those, the 6 areas that are listed on the slide right now. And let's dive right in. So here we go. Website look and feel. So the first feature that we added is mega menus, which is a cool name for something that I will show you right now. So this is one of our test clubs. And when I go to the members, this is a mega menu. So you can see the menu across the top. That's the first layer. This is the second layer of menu. And each one of these is a separate third layer. And so the whole thing appears at once. And let me show you how you define a mega menu. So we start out with resources, and you can see the choices that are there. Let's go to the website tab, and we'll go to menus. And you can see here the top level menus, and here are the sub menus. And if we look at resources here, this is the menu that we were just looking at: photo albums, committees, surveys, documents, interests. Under resources, there they are right there. In order to create the mega menu, you create a series of however many you need, 2, 3, 4, and then we create a mega menu. So when we create a sub menu, we can check the box to display as a mega menu. And when we do that, the only things that we'll see as available menu items are other submenus. And we select the ones that we want to move over. And when we do, we've now created the mega menu. And then the final step is to drop the mega menu onto a top level menu. And you can see that we did that right here. So here is the members. There's the mega menu. Here it is right here. We drop that on the top level menu, and then you can see what the obvious result is. So it's just a very simple extension of the menu functionality that we already have and that you've seen all along. We have a couple of other widgets that we've added to the page builder. There's a tab display widget and a carousel widget. So let me show you how those work. I'm going to go back to the control panel, custom pages, and this third one down. So here is the tab display widget. You create however many tabs you need. And when I click on them, you'll see a different set of content for each tab. And of course, it can be as big as you want. And right below that is the carousel widget. And in this case, we have 5 photos that are on the widget. We have navigation buttons where we can move quickly through those photos. And let's go back to it. Each photo can then have some text in front of it, a caption, and it can also have a link, which will take us to another website. And you can also control the position of that. So let's have a look at that page and see how both of those are defined. So I'm going to edit the page here, and here is the tab display widget. And when I select it, we get the tools for this cell, which is tab display. And here we can add 1 or more tabs, and you can have 8 or 10 tabs if you wanted, as long as the cell is wide enough to fit them. Now for each tab, you can configure the tab. So the tab has a title. You can see Get Involved right here. And then you can control the font, the size, the background color, the hover color, and the text and border color. And then there's a preview right there. And then when you want to edit the content of the tab, you click this icon and we get the full editor here, and you can create whatever content you want. So here is want to get more involved in ballooning. There is want to get more involved in ballooning. So you add the tabs, you configure them, you create the content, and then you apply the changes. Let's go down here to the carousel widget. And once I've selected the carousel widget, of course, it stops scrolling, which is great. Oh, no, it doesn't. Here we go. So first of all, you specify the slide delay, anywhere between 3 seconds and 20 seconds. And then we create the slide. So when I click on Add Slide, I now have slide 6. I can now edit that slide and select an image from the local hard disk. When I click on Select Overlay, now I get a series of other options. So here's the slide heading. You can control the position, left, center, or right, the caption, and of course you can customize the font, the heading, and the caption, and also optionally include a link, which brings up our standard link builder. So, again, the idea is that you can create, a rotating carousel of photos on a page. And here are the details of that. Let me just remove this one. And let me click this. And let's change the position to center. And I'll click Save, Apply Changes. And now you notice the caption is in the center. Okay, let's just save those changes, make them active, and there we are. So that's the tab display widget and the carousel widget. We have a couple of other widgets that we're thinking of, considering, just to continually expand the options that you have for creating content on the homepage and on your static web pages. Now, the next feature is that we've updated the look and feel of our questions functionality. Now, this is still in testing, so I'm showing it to you on one of our test websites. And the questions functionality we actually use in 5 different places. It's the same, set of code behind the scenes. So when you create additional member data questions for a member, when you create event-specific questions, surveys, ad hoc forms, and in the collectibles module where you create the questions that define a collectible item. All of those use the same functionality, and let's see what that looks like. So when I go back to our website and I click on our profile link, I'll click additional member data, and here you can see we've reformatted this slightly. There's a different font there. We're doing radio buttons and checkboxes in a different layout, but we've also sort of improved the overall layout. There's less separation here between the question and the answers, and there's a little bit more separation between questions. Now, you can also customize this yourself. So you can use the default layout if you want, but if you want to customize it, we go to the website look and feel panel, which comes up, and on the text styles button right here, there's a new option that says questions. So this is a default standard question, checked, checkbox and radio button. I can change the font here. Let's change that to Homer. And let's not make it italic, let's make it bold instead. And then I can also customize the color. So let's change these to a version of, yeah, that's a little bit too purple. No, they're all purple. There we go, there's a nice blue. So we select that blue, click save, and I can now go to my profile, look at questions again, and there we are. Now the questions are in bold and the radio buttons and checkboxes are in blue. So you have the ability, to change these to create something that is exactly, what you want it to look like. So here are the 5 different places where those style would be used. And then you can also change the default in the style editor by clicking the site editor by clicking text styles. Okay, so system emails. Here are a couple of features that a lot of clubs have been clamoring for a while, and we were finally able to add them. The first one is an unpaid transaction reminder. So you can now have the system automatically send an email to every member and non-member who have an unpaid transaction. And the place where we configure that is on the control panel, on the Money tab, and under Money Options. So we go down here, notify members of unpaid transactions. It's actually members and non-members. When I click yes, I can specify the days between the reminder. And we're going to fix this formatting thing here. So you can specify this as, every 10 days, every 30 days, whatever you want. And then also something called the unpaid transaction lag time. So if somebody registers for an event and decides that they're going to send in a check, this process runs every night. You don't want them to get an email the very next day to say you have an unpaid transaction. So you can set a lag time, let's say 10 days, and they won't get their first reminder until at least 10 days has passed, which should give them plenty of time to cut a check, put it in the mail, send it off, and for it to be received by the treasurer, who opens it, processes the payment, and records that transaction as having been paid. So very simple configuration. And the other thing that's important to point out is that email can also be customized. So we go to System Emails, and we go down the System Email Manager all the way to this new one here that says Unpaid Transaction Reminder, and you can customize that email as necessary. Here it is. Dear recipient, the following transactions are waiting to be paid. This would be a list of the transactions. Click here to go to the payment page to complete payment. And, again, you can add whatever is necessary, or appropriate for your organization. The other enhancement that we've made is that we now allow you to customize system email elements, including the from name and the email address it's coming from, the reply to name and email, the subject, and also optionally to track the opens. So let's have a look how that works. we're actually in the right place for that. So the first thing is a new button here where you can configure the email defaults. So for every email, you can have defaults beyond the ones that we've built into the system for the from address and name and the reply to address and name. And you specify those defaults and they will be used if you define them. So then we go down to an individual email and there's a new icon here, which is this wrench icon, or if you're outside the US, maybe it's a spanner. And when I click that icon, here is where I can customize these elements, but also the subject, because of course the subject will be different for each email that you get that you send out. So you can create your own custom subject, and here is also where you can track whether the email has been opened within a date range. And once you check this box, then this icon appears right here, view the tracked results. And when I click it, I can specify a date range because, you know, after a while, you're going to get, you know, potentially hundreds or thousands of these emails here. So you specify a date range. In this case, I just clicked the search button, and now we can see everyone who received this email and whether they opened it or not and when they opened it. So here's someone who was sent the email on 4/17 and they opened it within 4 minutes. And the other thing is that we have modified the member director notification to add a couple of options. And let me show you where that is. That's on the control panel, on the people tab, and under people options. So we go down to the bottom here, notify membership director when, and we're actually going to reword these slightly because I think they're a little bit confusing right now. But what was happening in the past is that the membership director would get notified when the membership sign up or renewal transaction was created, but not when it was paid. And so now you can control whether the membership director should be notified when the member signs up or only after they've made payment, because they're not an active member until they've made payment. Or you can do the same thing with sign up and renewals when the sign up and renewal has taken place, or only after payment has been made in full for the sign up or renewal. And as I said, we're rewording these slightly because I'm not happy with the current wording. But essentially that's what it means. And if you select no, then you're turning those notifications off and the membership director won't get an email. So member login and profile. We now have an option to enforce strong passwords. For those organizations that want to do that, there are actually two options. You can specify a minimum length plus a lowercase letter, an uppercase letter, a number, and a symbol, which, you know, a lot of websites still do because somehow they think it's actually stronger. The other option is to specify a passphrase plus a minimum length. Now, a passphrase is something like, our cat has purple spots, which is 20 characters long. With the minimum length option, you know, you might have a password that looks something like that, like this, my cat $45. The reality is that the computer doesn't distinguish one character from another character. They're all just characters. And it's been well documented that the longer your password is, the harder it is for someone to hack it. So we give you this passphrase option, and you can specify a minimum length, like, you know, 10 or 12 characters. And, you know, for a lot of people, I would suggest that this is much easier to remember than this is, and it's also way more secure. We also now can require, you can require a password change every X days, between 30 days and 365 days. And we're also adding two-factor authentication. So let's have a look at where that feature is implemented. Here is the website tab, and we go to website options. And here is the option that says require strong password. We're actually going to do some reformatting on this page a little bit because I want to put this option in, its own category. So here are the two options. You can say minimum length only and specify, say, 12 characters, or you can say minimum length and diverse characters, and specify however many characters you want. Let's say 10. And then it must be a lowercase letter, an uppercase letter, a number, and a symbol. You can also require periodic password change. And if I say yes, this is anywhere between 30 days and 365 days. And you can also optionally enable two-factor authentication. And for those of you that aren't familiar with that, if you've ever logged into your bank website, or maybe you have some investments and you've logged into that website, they will give you the option of sending to your email address or to your smartphone, usually a 6-digit number. And that's the idea with two-factor authentication, is that it's something you own and something you receive. So the idea is to really ensure that the person logging in didn't just steal the password, they also have to have access to the email address or the mobile phone. Now, this text message option will only be available for those clubs that have enabled text messaging, for which there are additional charges. But yes, you can enable that for email only, or email and text messaging, or of course you can turn it off. We don't expect a lot of clubs and associations to use these features. I mean, your local car club or running club, or even a professional association is not the same as your bank or your brokerage account. But on the other hand, we do have some organizations running on ClubExpress that do require a higher level of security, and so we're very happy to be able to offer them that going forward. As I said, this feature is in testing right now and will be deployed hopefully by the end of the week, but more likely early next week. And we now also give you the option to renew early. So let's have a look at how that works. So typically, let's go to renewal and expiration settings. Typically, members can't renew until the first notice has been sent out. So in this case, it's configured as 60 days. When we send out that first notice, we set a flag in the system, and when a member tries to log in, they'll see a message that says it's time to renew. And they'll see something up at the top here that says, renew now. Typically, that's what happens when the first notice goes out. So we now have a new option that you configure on the People Options page. And here it is down here. Members can renew early, yes or no. And when yes is enabled, members who go to their profile screen will see this box here. Your membership is not yet due for renewal. If you want to renew early, click here. And it'll step them through the renewal cycle, and it will respect whether you're doing rolling renewals, people will get credit for the year that's not up, or whether everybody renews on the same date. Of course, that'll all be respected. But if we've had clubs that have said, members would like to renew early, so now we give you the option to enable that feature. So a couple of changes and enhancements we've made to modules. We've had a number of situations in the past where people would make changes to events, and then those changes were not immediately reflected in the event that members or non-members would see. And the problem there is that we try to make things as efficient as possible by caching the event inside the system. But the way that cache works is just incredibly complex, and we spend a lot of time trying to catch all of those different situations. And in the end, we just found it was next to impossible to do that. So instead, we decided to take a different route. So let's go to an event. Here is a general all-member meeting, and I'm going to go to the admin options. And here is the event manager for a specific event. And you can see all of these panels down the side. As you know, you can make changes. You click on location, you click the edit, registration and fees. You can see all the settings. You click the button. So when you've made a bunch of changes to an event and you're getting it closer or to the point that you want, there is now a new button here that says Reset Event. And what that will do is it will flush the cache, the internal cache, for that event, and that event only. So when you then click on the button here to go back to the event itself, all of the changes that you've made will be reloaded into memory. And so you'll have the event will be in the state that you want it to be. Okay. We've also changed the way that archive works in the event calendar. And so let's have a quick look at that. So here we're in the event manager. So this is the admin side of the module for all events. And when I click search, we'll see a list of events here. And if I scroll down a little bit, here is an archive option. And when I click this, it will allow me to select a category. So what a lot of clubs do is they create an event category called archived events and move them all over there. When I click the archive button, what it's going to do, instead of having this whole separate and special way of handling archiving, we simply change the status. So now, here are all of the different event statuses, and archived is simply just another status. And once an event has been archived, you can optionally look at archived events. Let's check just the archived events and click search. And here we see one archived event, and I have the unarchive icon, which again will change the status back to whatever the status was before. So it just simplifies things a bit behind the scenes. We also now, you can configure an event so that if a registration is cancelled, a designated event contact will be notified in the same way that an event contact can be notified when somebody registers. And so let's have a look at that. We'll go to events. We'll edit this particular event. We can look at event contacts. Here we are. And here is Martin Smith. Notify on registration, notify on cancellation. So those are the options right there. And if I want to edit Martin, I click here. Now Martin Smith's information is up here. And I can select the appropriate options and click update. Okay. The classified ads module. I know not a lot of clubs are using that, but we've actually made some enhancements to that module. You can now search for ads using the last name of the person who posted the ad by category and by keyword. For admins who where ads need to be approved, there's now an option on the approval screen to actually view the ad. And we've changed the number of ads per page that you'll see. It used to be 10, now it's 30. And there are a couple of bugs internally that we fixed as well. So the e-commerce storefront. This is another one that I know a lot of clubs aren't using, but we did a major enhancement to the e-commerce storefront earlier in the year. And there were a few other things that we wanted to do. And so let's have a quick look at those. It's really becoming a very, very powerful storefront module. Okay, we go to the control panel, the money tab. Here is the storefront. And we're on the product manager side. We could also go to the orders side of the storefront. So here are a bunch of products in the storefront. And there's a couple of options here. Let's just have a look at these t-shirts. So one of the things that was on the screen that I just described is that there's a new option here called view only. So you can have products in the storefront that people can't actually order. They can view them. And then when you select that option, you get this new screen where you can say, instead of order now, it says at event only, or call for availability, or whatever text you want to put in that's appropriate, contact an admin, for example. So it's a product that's visible, but people can't order it the way they normally would. Now, this particular product, the t-shirt with logo, has been configured with variations of size and color, and you can have other variations as well. And And if you've looked at the storefront before, you'll know that you can create your own sizes. The sizes that we use for clothing are different than what we use for shoes. Men's and women's sizes are different. Outside the US, the sizes are different. So you create whatever sizes are appropriate, and you can also specify your own colors. So let's see how that works when we jump down to inventory. So we're going to look at the inventory for this t-shirt, and we've defined a few sizes: extra small, small, and medium. And I can now click on this new button that says add multiple variations. And now I see my list of sizes and my list of colors. Let's click large and extra large, black, blue, red. And if we had other settings as well, they would also appear. I can make them available. And when I click save, we're going to create 6 new variations. A couple of other changes: canceling a partially filled order now issues a credit. We've made some changes to the data exports. The open orders export is a new one. No, I'm sorry, we're going to get to that in just a moment. The open orders export in the storefront now includes the answer to the additional question, which is variable. And you can optionally require an email address for non-member orders. And that is done on the configure screen under storefront options. We go down to non-member orders, and you can require an email address. So if you're selling product at a big event, you may not need an email, but if you're selling product through the website, then obviously you'd need an email address. So some other enhancements. This is what I was thinking about before. Under data exports, there's a new expired members export, which allows you to filter by date expired range. And we've also updated some of the other date filters to make it clear what they apply to. So let's go to the control panel, to the Club tab, and data exports. So here's this new export here, expired members. And when I click this, the date range applies to the membership expiration date. There's the date range down there. But we've also updated this description for each one of these. And in all of these cases, the date range applies to the member join date. Just to make it, abundantly clear what you're exporting. And we've also enhanced the data cleanup options. Now, this was one that a lot of clubs asked us to implement. It turns out many of you have members who want to register for events that might be free, for example, but they can't be bothered logging in, or they've forgotten their username and password and they can't be bothered trying to recover them. So they just register as a non-member. And you end up with duplicates between the non-member database and the member database. And so we've enhanced the data cleanup options so that you can now match a non-member to a member account in 3 different ways. And let's have a look how that works. We go to the control panel, People tab, and the People Manager. And under non-member options, here are cleanup tools. And these are the 3 new options right here. Match a non-member to a member by email address, first name, first and last name, or street address. So let's select this one. I'm going to click go. And here we have someone named Orville Acton, who is in the non-member database once, is in the member database once, the same email address and the same first name, I guess, Orville. Now, if I click this button here, it's going to merge Orville's transaction and payment history, event registration history, donation history, all of that stuff. It's going to merge that into the member record, including any contact information that was entered, and it's going to delete the non-member record. Now, for some clubs, when you click the go button, you might get a couple of 100 entries here. And so instead of doing them one by one, you can review them one by one. But instead of doing them, you can also click on automatic merge, And what it will do then is it will just merge them all automatically once you've reviewed them. And so the idea is that these non-members that are duplicates of member records, we want to give you the ability to clean those up as quickly and as simply as possible. So I wanted to spend a little bit of time just talking about some of these new content syndication features that we've added for multi-tier organizations. Now, as many of you know, even though this may not apply to your organization, ClubExpress supports a couple of different ways of managing multi-tier organizations. And one of these is where you have a top-level organization, and then you have individual chapters which are independent. So they have their own website, they have their own database, members sign up at this level, they have their own member types, but they also belong to a parent organization. And that parent organization wants to be able to create a richer experience for their chapters. And so we now have this feature called content syndication. And you can see all the different places where it applies. And I'll show you a couple of examples of those very quickly. I know this doesn't apply to everyone who's listening in, but some of you, even though you have your own clubs, some of you may be part of a larger organization. And this is features that they may be interested in. And we now have a team member here at ClubExpress, Lucio Peloso, who is our Director of Business Development, and he's working on all of these multi-tier situations. So I'll give you an example. We've just inked a partnership with the League of American Bicyclists, which has about 490 cycling clubs as members. About 75 of those cycling clubs run on ClubExpress already, and we're looking to sign up, a couple of hundred more of them. And the League of American Bicyclists will be creating content that will then be available to all of the lower level clubs. I'm going to switch over to a different website here. This is another one of our demo websites. It's the Chicago Association of Financial Planners. And here is a second website, which is the Illinois Association of Finance. Of course, these are both fake organizations. And let me just log in here. So we're logged in here, and let me log in to this one as well. Logged in as happened to be Martin Smith in this local club also. So the way this works very quickly is I can go to the Communications tab, and let's look at the Blogs module. So here is a blog we've called IAF Blog for Chapters. And when I click this button, there's a new option here that says Share with Lower Level Subgroups. So any blogs that are added to, any posts that are added to this blog will be available for the lower level subgroups. So let's go to a blog, and we have a blog here, AMS Fest blog post, and I'm going to edit that blog post. Here's a blog post for everyone at AMS Fest, and let's just change that to red, and we'll make it a little bit bigger. There it is. Okay, now I'm going to go to the lower level club, and when I go to Communications, switch to View mode and go to Blogs, and here is the IAF blog for chapters. So this is the blog that's created at the top level that's now visible at the lower level, and there's the AMS blog post, and here is the big red post that we just edited. So what's happening here is that we're creating content on one website, which is then available on a different linked website. And this is, I have to say it, because this is incredibly cool stuff. This is something that, no other association management software can do. It also works the same way in the News and Articles module. So we create a category. Here is National News. Share articles in this category with lower level groups. And it's the same, it works exactly the same way. I can filter by that category, National News, click search. I create an article here, and that article would immediately be available. I can do the same thing in the document library module. When I go to website, document library, here are national policies. Let's edit the properties, share folder with lower level subgroups. So this folder will now appear in the document library, once I check this box, will now appear in the document library of all of the lower level clubs. All the documents will be visible, and any subfolders will also be visible as well. So let's click leave here. Blogs, news articles, documents. Works a little bit different with custom web pages because we don't know how the lower level club has their website organized. So the way we do it is that we allow you to put a page on the menu, and we allow you to place it in a link. So when I go to custom web pages, again, I can edit categories, and here are shared pages. Share pages in this category with lower level groups. And so when I filter by category, I see this one page called the 2022 IAF conference. So when I go down to financial planners, let's say I'm editing the homepage, and we're editing the main version of the homepage. And let's drag a panel in here. Let's select that. We'll create a link. And I can filter by custom page. I can filter by IAF shared pages. And there is the conference. And let's pop that into a new window. Click save. We've just added that link. So this page is coming from the other website. Opens up a new tab. We're still on financial planners, but there is the page that we created. It works the same way with menus. When I'm editing a menu, let's say at the end of member stuff, I can say custom pages, and there is the page. Happens to be at the top because it's sorted. 2022 IAF conference. I can move that over and save it, and now you can access the page from the menu. Also works with homepage rows. So the top level club can create content that appears on the homepage of the lower level clubs, and it works with events in both directions. Okay, so that's really everything I wanted to show you. Let's switch back to Sam and Devon and see if there are questions that haven't been answered yet.
We have a handful. There were some questions and some things that a lot of people mentioned, so we just wanted to bring it up again. So when you were talking about the unpaid transaction email that can be sent, when do those emails stop, and how would a member status affect those emails? So would it still be sent to someone who is expired or dropped?
They go to everyone who has an unpaid transaction, and they will keep going to everyone who has an unpaid transaction. It's incumbent upon the club, if you're going to if a member expires, that if they have unpaid transactions, you know, just for basic accounting, you should be writing those off. You know, if somebody said that they were going to make a donation and never made that donation, you don't want that unpaid donation hanging around if that member has expired or said, you know, screw you, I don't want to be a member anymore. So you want to either delete that donation or write it off as not having the funds not having been received. And ClubExpress allows you to do that. So in some ways, perhaps for the treasurer of the organization, this may result in a little bit more maintenance, but it will also result in more accurate and complete data. There is also, when you delete, when you drop a member, there is an option on the drop screen to delete any unpaid transactions. So for drops, let's say somebody has an unpaid transaction and then they die, they pass away. You can drop that person so they don't receive any more emails from the club, which might be, difficult for the family. And as part of that, you can also delete any unpaid transactions.
Okay, thank you. And to reiterate, the unpaid transaction email is one email for all transaction activities. It wouldn't be an email for an unpaid event registration versus an email for unpaid membership dues.
It's one email for all, but if there are multiple unpaid transactions, let's say a membership renewal, a couple of event registrations and a donation, they'll all be listed in the email, and the member can click on the link, or if it's a non-member, they'll click on the link, they'll go to the pending payment page, and then they have the option of checking off which payments they want to make, which transactions they want to pay off. But yes, it's just one email.
Okay. And speaking of more emails, but switching gears, the ability to edit system emails. So are you able to put tags in the subject line of system emails?
Great question, but the answer right now is no.
Okay.
I will add it to the wish list, though.
Oh, yay. Okay. We did get a handful of suggestions in our chat, so thank you to everyone who submitted those. And if you have more, you can feel free to send those to ideas at ClubExpress. And for the
we'll
membership,
also,
oh, I'm sorry.
Sam, by the way, we'll also be saving the chat so we can review that and
yes, we will
see what great ideas there are there.
And for the new options for membership director emails, so email notifications going out for renewals, for new members joining, can this be set by subgroup, or is it a blanket notification that would be covering all levels of an organization?
Okay, so what we're talking about here is what we call multi-tier option 1, which is one website, people join at the top level, but you may have chapters, regions, and districts underneath that. In a situation like that, there is going to be one membership director at the top level, and so that's the person who would be notified. We do, when you define chapters, there are separate options. Let me just go and find those. Hold on. Let me see if Demo Test Club, first of all, has chapters. And it does. So I think subgroup admin, people manage. I thought we had an option here. I'm not sure. No, that's the chapter finder options. I'm not sure where that option is. I can't find it right now. I thought we had an option where you could automatically notify a chapter coordinator when somebody joins the chapter. And right now I don't see it. So let me make a note of that. And either I'm missing it or we don't have it. But it would be a good idea to add. Okay. What's next then?
Sorry, I was muted. The next item is a question about password strength changes. So if an organization implements a strong password now, how does that affect anyone who already configured a password that might be a really easy one and may not fit that criteria?
Okay, so the best way to do that is probably to set the options that require a password change. So if you set that initially to say 30 days or 60 days, the timer will start running. and anyone who then logs in will, after say 30 days, will be told to change their password, and will be told that they need, that they need to enter a stronger password. The other option is that we have the ability internally to set a flag that that will require a password change immediately when somebody logs in. So we can also set that flag for you. It's a very simple query that we run for all active members. When we do that, as soon as somebody logs in next, they'll be asked to change their password. Now, there's I'm sure a follow-up question there. How does this work with the Remember Me option? If the reset password flag is set, if somebody uses Remember Me, they would still be required to change their password. If it's not set, then it would never be triggered unless you set a fairly short, change password time, say 30 days, to begin with, even if you make it longer later. The other question that relates to that is, how does the Remember Me option work with two-factor authentication? And the way it works is that if somebody has Remember Me enabled, but the club will also have two-factor authentication enabled, the Remember Me will get you past the first step, but you will still see the dialogue that takes you to the second step, which would say you need to look in your email or your mobile phone for a 6-digit activation code and then enter that. So if you have two-factor authentication enabled, Remember Me will not log you in automatically. You'll still have to enter the 6-digit code.
I actually think I found the spot that you were looking for as it related to notifying the chapter coordinators.
Okay.
So that is in the people options. Under membership options, it's towards the end of that first section, notify chapters on a membership change.
Oh, there we go. Thank you.
Yes.
I knew I wasn't going crazy. So there
I knew you
yes.
weren't either. So
so notify on join, on renew, on leave, and on expired drop. There we go. Okay. Thank you, Sam.
sure.
What else do we have?
I don't think that we have any more questions. I know Devin's been answering some of the questions that have come in as we've been talking.
Well, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. I hope we showed you some stuff that was, interesting, useful. I know there's a number of features in version 66 that people have been asking for. So we do review the wish list on a regular basis. We've done the most recent review and essentially set up the development schedule for the next 3 months or so, with some ideas for things further out towards the end of the year. There's going to be a lot more enhancements in the event calendar and in various other parts of the system. And just so you know, we're about to start work on a major project to do a significant update to the mobile app. So those of you that are using the mobile app for your organizations, we're looking to really beef that up and add a whole bunch of features to it. But it's a big project, so it'll be a while before that's ready. So I want to thank you for being ClubExpress customers, for supporting us. We're continuing to move forward, and thanks for joining us today, and special thanks also to Sam and Devin for managing the meeting.